Hello and welcome to another Read Aloud with Miss Disney. I am your lovely host, Miss Disney, obviously. And in today's reading, we are going to be reading another A Twisted Tale anthology story. And in this reading, we're going to be reading The Reluctant Prince. What if Bambi didn't want to be the next great prince of the forest? By Liz Braswell. The snow had finally disappeared. Only white pockets of it still remained in the deepest, shadiest gorges. Forest streams rushed and burbled, and overran everywhere with meltwater as cold as ice frost. This made the beavers joyful and busy, of course. All dawn and dusk they paddled back and forth across the ponds to attend to their dams, then swam up the river to build new ones. Their ceaseless activity provided no end of delight to the otters, who had been reluctantly deprived of their snowbank slides and runs. Cold mud wasn't quite as fun to slip down and slink over, and sometimes you had to clean your coat extra carefully after. But also sometimes you ran across a frog croakingly emerging from her buried winter den, pale and slow from a season asleep. Yum! Birds sang without break, sometimes right through the middle of the day, joyful at the arrival of spring. Robins, back from wherever they went for the colder seasons, trilled and warbled until snoring old friend owl hunkered down in annoyance. A sibling pack of blue jays tore through the canopy and meadows, screeching and playing tag, their feathers a striking blue in the sun, dollops of white on their backs, like the snow that had so recently melted. Chickadees called out to declare which tree was theirs, when there was trouble to avoid, and where there was food, mourning doves cooed hauntingly, although they had been singing since late January, the first ones to sense better days ahead. They strutted about, smug in their predictions. The troutberry trees had already bloomed and gone. On the forest floor, delicate white petals of starflowers and gold thread and Carolina spring beauty sparkled when a stray beam of sunlight caught them. Wild onions were the only plant that had fully leaved out, brilliant bright green under maple and elm and birch and oak, whose own leaves were still pregnant thoughts. All of nature was just waking up, fully becoming large and new. In one protective thicket, not so different from the one Bambi himself had been born in, Feline the doe was resting her own growing body. Occasionally she stretched her long neck out to curl around her belly, feeling its warmth against her cheek, dreaming of the days to come. Bambi watched and felt a lightning bolt of joy shoot through him like he was a fawn again. He couldn't entirely restrain himself, but didn't entirely give in to the overwhelming urge to bellow and leap as high as he could. He pranced excitedly in place instead, front legs bending and shifting, his rear legs shuffling and accommodate the weight. Then, in a graceful dip and turn, he moved away from the thicket, unwilling to disturb Feline, but unable to stand still. Bambi was going to be a father, of twins, it looked like. How magical and lucky was that? He needed to distract himself, to tell the world the good news, to find a friend to expend some excess energy with, get into high jinks with, like in the old days. Of course that meant Thumper and Flower. Flower had been out of his winter torpor for a while now, although he and his family didn't go to sleep for the whole season the same way bears did. They tended to hunker down and doze through the coldest nights. Thumper and his kin stayed awake and out the entire season. Both would be ready for some fun, a last jaunt before the babies came. Suddenly, everything around him fell silent. There was a thick pause in the life of the forest. He flicked his ears, trying to locate the disturbance. "Your doe is beautiful, son." The great prince of the forest stepped out of invisibility, dipping his full, branching rack of antlers in respect. "Her name is Feline," Bambi said politely but firmly. His father turned his head a little, keeping his son focusing in his big black eyes, and completely ignored what he had just said. "You have lived through the winter, through fire and wound, through cold and loss. You, too, are healthy and strong, and are starting your own family now." Bambi felt his front legs twitching again, begging to run, and not out of joy. His ears flicked. There was something ominous about these words, but he was not a fawn anymore, and frankly, ominous and pompous were quite similar in nuance. He willed himself to stillness. His father continued, "Fawns will be born, but some animals did not make it through the winter. Some will not last through to summer. The forest is renewed with bud and grass, with the sun and the bodies of those who passed. Spring is the time of greatest change. It is time for a new great prince of the forest." The old buck bowed his neck low, low, and lower still, until he curled one leg back and was nearly touching the cool, packed leaf duff with his velvety nose. "Oh," Bambi said, eyes widening, "but why? You're the prince." The buck's own eyes gleamed in the closest he ever came to a true smile. "I am strong and fast, and the forest knows me. But for how many more seasons? The sun won't warm my back forever, Bambi. The forest needs a strong leader. One they know will help protect them in the years to come." There was silence, and his father gazing at him wisely. Or maybe just silently. "And that's it?" Even as his hooves shifted nervously in the dirt, Bambi felt a strange warmth of emotion flow up his throat and bloom into his head, settling at the base of his much smaller antlers. Surprise, maybe, or perhaps something more heated. "You were prince, and now you're done. And now it's my turn? Just because I'm your son? That is how it has always been." "I've lived through one winter," Bambi said. "I got hunted before the sun had even begun to set earlier. I don't know anything about leading. Anymore, I suppose. Than I know anything about being a father. And surely you have other children. Older ones more experienced in the ways of the forest." "There have been other bucks," the old prince said neutrally. "And there are does. There is no one like you, Bambi." "There's nothing special about me," Bambi snorted. "And until the fire, I barely ever saw you, father. You appeared, led us to safety, and disappeared again. You found me when I was hurt and lost and brought me to the herd, and then disappeared again. Is this the sort of prince I'll be, majestic and mysterious, unapproachable except in emergencies?" The old buck's eyes gleamed in amusement. "Are you challenging me?" "No, father," Bambi said shortly. "I'm not." He turned his back on the prince, for the first time ever, and wandered away slowly but pointedly, not even listening for whether or not the buck left as well.